I've always been asking myself the questions. And I've found that my intuition has never been wrong.
I think one of the greatest things that you can start to do is
I was so driven to win. And I was the worst loser. I was such a sore loser. I was like mean, I was bad to be around for days until the next game.
Rise and shine, it's Entspresso time. Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I am not a morning person. But when you start your day with an inspiring routine that gets you motivated for success, like watching one of these videos, it will change your life. So let's start your day off right together. Grab your coffee, know that I believe in you, and get ready for a shot of Entspresso from Lewis Howes.
I wake up every morning. Espresso keep me going. I wake up every morning.
I was 23, 24, I read The Alchemist.
Yeah, it's my favorite.
And like the end of the book is like, the treasure's within you. Don't go look around the world trying to find the treasure. I think that was pretty much the ending. So sorry to give it away if you haven't read it, but the treasure was within me. And I was like, oh wow, I have all the answers I need within me.
Yeah.
And then I started like asking myself the questions. Now I'm a professional question asker to everyone else also now, but I've always been asking myself the questions. And I've found that my intuition has never been wrong. And I've gone against my intuition a lot, specifically in relationships. Like I'll get into relationships, I'm like, this is not the right thing for me. But something is telling me like, I want to conquer this, or I want to help this person. I'm desiring this. And then I stay in it way too long. And my intuition's like, get out. But my head is like, yeah, but what about this? And it's fulfilling this need. And every time something doesn't work out, and I knew it wasn't going to work out, my intuition is telling me like, why are you doing this?
I believe that great ideas flow through you, through me, through you, through everyone. I believe that great ideas are flowing through you constantly, and we are professional get in our own wayers. We get these great ideas and then immediately start to think about all the reasons why we cannot do it and why it will never work out. Have you ever had that happen? Maybe you're dreaming, or maybe you're walking, or you're having a shower, you get this great idea. It's like you get all this energy, it's like, wow, I could do that. And then almost instantly, you start to tell yourself why you can't do it. Or maybe you tell a friend or family member your idea, and they start to tell you why you can't do it, why you're not good enough, why it'll never happen, why you need to be practical, safe. Why do you think you can do that? Has that ever happened to you? I believe that great ideas flow through you. I think one of the greatest things that you can start to do is start to act on those ideas, even though they don't make sense. This is the crux of the problem, is those great ideas actually don't make sense because they're new, because you're trying to create something that hasn't been created before, because the idea isn't fully formed and will have lots of holes in the plan, because there is no perfect plan yet. It's just an idea. And so there are lots of holes in the plan. You'll point them out, your friends and family will point them out, and we use the holes in the plan as a reason not to execute, instead of saying, okay, that's great feedback. I'm gonna work on those holes to create the plan, to create the momentum, to create the action. I remember I was having an IG Live with a beautiful woman in Toronto, beautiful soul, and I told her this idea, and she said, that's don't quench the spirit. It's like, what do you mean? Don't quench the spirit. And she was very excited. It's like, okay, don't quench the spirit. It's like, okay, I like it. Don't quench the spirit. It's a passage from the Thessalonians. Thessalonians. Wow, say that 5 times fast. Thessalonians. Don't quench the spirit. The idea is the spirit flows through you. That the ideas they're given to you. That they're divine, that they mean something, that you have to go act on them. And every time that you don't, you're quenching the spirit. You're literally shutting off your greatness. Every time an idea comes to you and you don't do something about it, you are shutting off the valve of your greatness. You're telling yourself that you suck. You're staying committed to staying stuck. That's what you're doing. You're staying committed to staying stuck. And the way through is to actually listen to those ideas. So there's a couple ways to do it, because those ideas are scary, because if they're of any size, then they're going to be scary. And because there are so many logical reasons why you shouldn't do it. here's what I do. Step 1, go from idea to action. So as soon as you get the idea, you got to go do something. Get out of your head. When you're in your head, you're dead. Have you ever heard that expression? When you're in your head, you're dead. When you're thinking about it, you start playing small immediately because your brain is designed to keep you safe. So instead of thinking about it, you got to go do something. Go do something. Go take some action on that idea. Trust that it's a good idea, right? Step number 2. It's what I call the 2% difference. Instead of just figuring out how to plan to get to 100%, this is what we do. We get an idea, immediately we start researching, we start planning. Don't do that. That's the worst thing you can do. Why? It's not that planning in itself is bad, but it's not the best use of your creative energy. Because as soon as you get the idea, you're excited, you're motivated, you're inspired, you want to go take some kind of action on it. Yeah. And then the next day you'll wake up and feel, oh, I can't do that thing. And all you've done is plan and research. That's not enough. You got to do something. You got to commit to taking some kind of action. You got to tell somebody you're doing it. If you're going to make a YouTube channel, you got to record your first video. The 2% difference is instead of creating the plan to get the 100%, you take action on the first 2%, even though it feels imperfect. If you want to start a health plan, right? You want to get in shape. You want to lose weight. Perfect. What most people do is start researching diets. This is classic. This is why people don't hit their goals, okay? You get inspired. I want to lose weight. Perfect. You start researching, and then you find out, oh, well, there's the keto plan, there's the paleo plan, there's the carnivore diet, there's vegan, there's all these different plans. And what am I going to do for working out? Am I going to do yoga or cardio or weights? And you just get immediately bombarded with so many different options, and then you're stuck in this loop. And then maybe tomorrow you wake up and there's still a tiny bit of energy, so then you spend more time researching and planning. Then you get so overwhelmed, you wake up the next day, it's like, okay, forget this. And then you're back to your old life. Because you've spent, does that sound familiar? Does that sound familiar at all? Yeah, raise your hand. Hey, that's me. You spend your life stuck in these pattern loops. The way through is, instead of using your best energy on research, to use your best energy doing something. The best thing you can do is not research how to create a fitness plan. The best thing you can do, what's the 2% difference? Do 10 push-ups. If you can't do 10, do 2 push-ups. Like, show yourself that you're the person who then takes immediate action. Is that 2 push-ups, if that's the max you can do, gonna actually get you in better shape? No, right? But the momentum you're building is to teach yourself that you get ideas and you follow through, right? So idea to action is step number 1. The 2% difference is step number 2. Instead of planning for 100%, we're taking action in the first 2%. And then the third thing I would say is just check where the energy is when you're coming up with the idea. Is the intent positive? Is the intent to serve? Are you in a optimistic, happy, positive, bold, courageous disposition? If you are, great. Then you have to go do the thing. Idea to action immediately. If you're feeling negative, weak, hurt, angry, jealous, enraged, then maybe your ideas to actions are not so good. Maybe that's when you want to pause. We procrastinate on the things that will serve us, and we take immediate action on the things that we regret. Saying that negative comment to the person next to us, retaliating against somebody who did us wrong, right? So if your energy is from a negative place, that's when you need to pause. That's when you need to hold. That's when you need to say, okay, I'm gonna reflect on this and come back to it. But if your energy is bold, courageous, empowering, inspiring, ready to go do something, then don't quench the spirit. Stop shutting off the valve of your greatness and go take some immediate action today. Now, I've got some special bonus clips that I think you're gonna enjoy, but before that, it's time for the question of the day. I wanna know, what was your single biggest takeaway from this video and your plan of action for the next week? When you watch a video and just get motivated, the science says you have a 35% chance of following through. That's it, 35%, that's not enough. Guys, we're here, you have a mission. You have to take action and build something important. But when you get motivated and then create a specific plan of action outlining how you're going to do it, you have a 91% chance of following through. And when you commit publicly to others, it jumps to 95%. That's what I want for you. So, question of the day. Your single biggest takeaway from this video and your plan of action for the next week Put it down in the comments below so I can celebrate you.
Good book by my man, Evan Carmichael, Built to Serve. If you want to learn about your purpose and how to become a better leader in the world, I love this. He says, this is the starting point for everything. If you're confused about what to do next, if you're pressured by others to fit in or live their version of your life, if you feel held back because of people judging you, it's because you don't know who you are and what you stand for. You got to figure out who you are and what you want and how you can serve other people.
There's a lot of people who get frustrated, who then say, you know, enough is enough, I'm going to do something. And then the next day they wake up and they're like back to their old life. Like they had this moment of boldness, a moment of greatness, and then fall back into repeated patterns and habits, and, you know, life just gets them down again and they go back to their job or their regular life. Like, how did you break that cycle? And this is actually the day I'm going to go and do something bigger.
I think it was just a moment of like, enough is enough. Like I was sleeping on my sister's couch for a couple of years originally. And she had told me, you know, are you going to start paying rent at about 1.5 years mark? Like, when are you going to start paying rent? Because I was just eating her food for free. I was like a slob. I didn't like clean up. I was just taking advantage of the situation. And I was 24 years old or something. And I remember just being like, it's time for me to grow up and do something with my life. Like, I've sat here for 1.5 years, almost 2 years now, like depressed, miserable, whatever I was doing, making excuses. Like, this isn't who I want to be. I aspire to be something greater. You know, my parents didn't raise me to be this way. I wanted to make myself proud. I wanted to make my last name proud. I wanted to make, you know, my family proud. And I wanted to be a symbol. I think, you know, I've always wanted to be a symbol of inspiration, of possibilities. From my sports days, like, I remember the feeling after the games when parents or fans or parents of other players from other teams would come up to me and say, thank you for showing me what's possible. Like, I had no, you know, there was no way you were able to catch that ball, but somehow you did that. It was like, it blew my mind. There was no way you guys should have come back after how much you were down. And what you did, like, blew me away. Like, I loved hearing that and seeing in other people, like, this spark of passion, excitement, of possibility for what they could create in their life. And I wanted to be that symbol of passion and vision and focus and commitment towards my dream to show others what's possible. And I've never been the best at anything I've done. You know, in sports, I was like always the underdog. I was never the biggest, fastest, or strongest dog. And I think it's just wanting to show people what's possible. So that's what I'm still doing. It's like I'm just a kid from a small town in Delaware, Ohio, who had a lot of emotional turmoil inside growing up, and I'm trying to show people what's possible, no matter where you come from. So my dad gets injured. He had a car accident, was in a coma for 3 months. And we didn't know if he was gonna live or die. Yeah. So it was this very uncertain time. And when he was in the coma, I said, you know, what would he want me to do? He would want me to go live my dreams. And so I went after playing professional football right after that. And he eventually woke up, but we had to teach him how to write, how to talk, how to, we had to, change him constantly. Like, he wasn't the functioning person that he used to be. He wasn't my dad anymore. Yeah. So it was an emotionally challenging experience because I lost the relationship with my father, but he's still in front of me. Yeah. I had to teach him how, he was like a kid almost. Yeah. And so to watch my father be this, provider, larger than life hero of mine. Yeah. Now we have to take care of him. Yeah. It was a challenging experience for me as a 23-year-old. And I remember, so he had to sell his business to his business partner at the time. So there was no more financial support that I had because he was kind of funding my athletic endeavors, training, education, all that stuff, everything. He was like, you go chase your dream. Like, I'll take care of stuff. So when that realization came to me, like, I no longer have my dad to fall back on. I played football, got injured. He wasn't there for me. He wasn't able to be there for me financially, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, as a mentor. He wasn't able to be there for me. Yeah. And I didn't have his company to fall back on, nor did I really want to. I mean, I almost failed it 3 times in a row. I didn't really like it. Yes. I liked people, but I didn't want to sell insurance. Yes. Just what he knew for 33 years. And that was probably the biggest thing that happened to me, because if he was still healthy and alive,
then you might be just to go
I'd
the
probably
insurance business.
sell life insurance in Delaware, Ohio, you know, and be rising up in that city or whatever. You know, maybe I'd have moved to the big city of Columbus, Ohio. You know, but as much as it's sad for me to know that he's still alive, but it's like a completely different relationship, and it's sad for me to know that happened. But I also think it had to happen for me to be able to become the man that I am today.
Yeah.
And to have the courage to be able to go after something that I didn't even know was possible. Like, I'm all about having nice things, like living in a nice place, flying first class. Like, I'm all about convenience and all these things. But I think if I was posting about all my material possessions every single day on social media, talking about how much money I had constantly, I would attract a certain crowd, and I would attract people close to me who probably were thinking about the same things, were focused on the money. So I would ask myself, like, if I lost it all, would those friends still be around? Did I make an impact in their life, or did I have meaningful connections with them beyond the money? Or was that the thing that attracted them to me as well? So I think you just need to ask yourself, like, again, if you're an athlete and then you get injured, are your friends going to stick around? Is your entourage going to stick around if you're no longer playing in the game, whatever sport you're playing, and you no longer have the money? Did you make an impact in people's lives? Did you build meaningful, intimate relationships? If you didn't, those people probably aren't going to stick around. But don't allow your net worth to reflect your self-worth. And the same thing with your athletic capabilities and everything else. Figure out a way to develop your self-worth first and build meaningful value in other people's lives. And if you make a lot of money, cool. But at least you have the foundation first of self-worth.
Walk us through what is, it was actually really interesting, even though I felt like I understand exactly what he means. It was really neat to see it in black and white. Here is the traditional view of what a real man is. So walk us through that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the traditional view is that a real man doesn't cry, doesn't show emotion. A real man makes a ton of money because he can provide for his family. A real man is able to have any woman he wants. A real man is strong, athletic, physical, and a real man doesn't back down from controversy. So I think, and there's a number of other in the list, but it's kind of like those key things. A real man is intelligent, he can take on any challenge, all these things. And so that's where we get men who are, who are stoic, who don't show emotion, because, it was driven into me day after day to not show fear, to not show emotion on the football field. Driven into you. Don't show them that they got to you, right? Don't let them see you sweat. Just like the simple things you hear over and over. But when a coach is beating you over the head with a whistle, screaming in your face, grabbing your face mask, throwing you down, and you're witnessing this all the time, because you're showing emotion, you're not going to do it. You're
Pretty
just
fast,
not.
yeah.
If you want to play the game and you want to be, achieve your goal, you're just like, okay, I'm going to be tough. Like, I just broke my ribs. I'm not going to let anyone know. Like, you just keep playing, you know what I mean? And so it's just challenging. It's just challenging. And especially with boys in locker rooms of sports teams, it's like the conversations, the locker talk is true. It happens. Unless there's a group of boys that just stand up and are like, hey guys, we're not going to talk bad about these girls or about these other kids or about these guys. We're not going to bully people. We're going to be supportive. It's just rare, I feel like. It's just very rare. And you need to have a group of boys who are educated by, in my opinion, loving, powerful women. And I was so grateful that I had 2 older sisters and an amazing mother who constantly would come back from these dates. Like, my sisters would come back from dates and be like, never do this, Lewis. They would tell me this guy's a jerk, he was an asshole, never do this. And so I learned early on, oh, you don't treat women this way. And there's a certain way to be in the world. And so I think I was blessed enough to have kind of that experience and that relationship with women early on that taught me how to treat just humans with respect. Not women in general, but I mean human beings, all humans. And that's what it is. I think it's first education. When I had surgery, I broke my wrist and they had to put a bone from my hip into my wrist.
You see the scar,
See the scar here. They took a bone out of my hip, put it in my wrist. I was in a cast from my shoulder to my fingers for 6 months like this. Wow. So I was in this position. And when you're in a cast like this, I could move it here, I can move it here, I can move it here, but I couldn't straighten my arm. So I kind of rested. And it would like scratch my shirt when I was shirtless. It would like scratch my skin. It smelled, it was dirty, all these things. I was like, it didn't look good. So I invented this cast cover. I actually still have one.
Wow.
I think it's in that locker.
Yes. We'll take a shot of that.
This was over 15 years ago, I think. I invented this cast cover that I actually went on Alibaba.com. I had like $60 to my name. I was like, here's what I want, here's the design. I want it to be like a wristband, because I wore wristbands in football.
Yeah.
I was like, I need a long wristband
Yes.
that's double thickness.
Yes.
That's different colors, that has a thumb hole, like all these different
You were
things.
just thinking of doing it for yourself.
That's it. I just wanted the
You weren't
solution.
thinking of creating a product.
No, I was like, I need a solution for my pain.
Yeah.
That was it.
Okay.
That's my first entrepreneurial idea, but I didn't know what it was.
Yes.
So I got this thing back from China. That was like 6 weeks later after I wired this money. I was like, I'm never gonna get this money back.
Yes.
I had no clue what was going on.
Was it difficult communicating with China?
Very difficult. I'm
the
sending
language,
emails back and forth.
They don't
yeah.
understand. You try to understand what they say.
I had no clue what I was doing.
Yeah.
But I went on Alibaba and posted something. And I got this box back with all these cast covers, right, that I made. And I remember saying to myself, wow, this thing is amazing. I could change them out with different colors.
Yeah.
It fits over the thumb hole. It looks better. Now, maybe I can make some money with this.
Wonder who else needs this, right?
Yes. There's lots of guys who break their arm and legs.
There's got to be a few of them more than you. Yeah, okay.
So I remember I was dating a girl at the time, and I was just like, I need to meet an inventor. Someone who's done this before that can help me, because this is an invention, right? Even though it's just a piece of cloth.
Yeah.
And she goes, I know an inventor.
Oh, wow.
And he just moved back to Columbus, Ohio. This is where I was living at the time. He just moved back.
Okay.
And I go, I need to meet this guy now. Like, put me in front of him, call him. I need to meet him now.
Okay.
I meet the guy the next day. And at the time, I was a couple months out of football.
Okay.
And as a football player, I looked like pretty much like a thug. I was wearing a backwards cap. I had baggy pants. I was just this athlete jock mentality.
Yes,
so I
yes,
show up with these baggy pants and backwards cap to a bar to meet this guy in this cast, and I was just like so passionate about this idea.
Was he scared of you? Like,
He was scared.
I can imagine. Yeah, a little intimidating.
I was rough around the edges,
Yes.
And I was just like convinced this guy knew the answer.
Yes.
Because he'd done it before.
Yes. He may be afraid to say no to you.
Exactly. He's complete opposite of me. He was more like analytical and nerdy in a sense. He was just like, but I brought this passion and this energy that I was just like, I need to make this happen.
Yes.
And I want to work with you. I want to make this happen. I don't know why, but he brought me on for 6 months. I worked for free for him for 6 months at his invention shop.
Wow.
In the kitchen, he had a closet that I had like a little desk that he put in for me. Yeah. And I was working for him, doing phone calls, trying to like promote his other products, going to trade shows with him and just learning about how to take an idea and bring it to reality. I didn't have that big of an audience when I started it almost 3 years ago. I had a pretty decent size, but I had the relationships with influencers from the years of previous stuff with my other business. So I was able to get a lot of great influencers on because I do an interview podcast. And I was just consistent. I said, I'm gonna do it every week for this year. And I did one once a week. And then the second year I said, I'm gonna do it twice a week this year because people were asking for more.
Yeah.
The third year now, people said, we want more. So I said, I'm gonna do 3 times a week.
Wow.
And so I'm at 240 episodes almost right now, over a 3-year period. And I still feel like I'm scratching the surface. But I'm almost 3 years in, at the end of 3 years, and I still love it. So I think a lot of people get into a podcast because they feel like they need to do it or they want to do it. And they'll talk about a topic for 6 months and then they're burnt out.
Yeah.
So I think if you're going to do a podcast, do something that you're committed to for the next 3, 5, 10 years.
Yeah.
If you really want to see it grow and build momentum around your brand and have an impact. Mainstream credibility is important. Because I think that's when you can really influence people.
And impact a lot of people.
And I noticed that, I'm not going to say their names, I think they're all great guys, but a lot of these guys who are successful in internet marketing, Oprah, Ellen, GMA, Today Show, none of them were being called to be on the shows. And I was like, if I want to impact the country and the world, I need all the big press to say, man, there's something about this guy or his mission or his message that we like. We got to have him on.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was on my sister's couch thinking like, someday I want to be on Ellen.
Yeah.
I want to be dancing with Ellen.
I saw it.
I want to be dancing with Ellen.
I saw it.
And I was just like, it's not going to be teaching LinkedIn.
Yeah.
It's not going to be being an affiliate marketer.
Yeah. Because it's just too niche.
hacking the internet. Yeah, it's just not it.
Yeah. How to build an email list. Yeah.
That's it. And I was just like, I need to build something that is building a movement and transforming lives.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whether it be spiritually, financially, health-wise, like it's got to be a bigger transformation than just how to make money. And I was like, gosh, how do I do this? And when every internet marketer was doing courses and just coaching by itself, I said, okay, I'm going to keep doing that because I want to generate revenue. But I'm going to build this podcast into a mainstream brand. How do I do that? I can't talk just about money. I need to bring on celebrities. I need to bring on thought leaders. I need to bring on billionaires.
Bigger society, global
Mainstream people.
Yeah.
I need to interview them, not just the internet marketing celebrities, which everyone else was doing that I knew. I was like, I can make a lot of money doing this.
Yeah.
But I need to forego money and do whatever I can to build relationship equity to get these people to come on my show, to trust me to tell their story.
Yeah.
Through association, I'm going to become that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You become who you hang out with.
Yeah.
You become those people that you're surrounded with the most.
Yeah.
And so people just started to say, well, I was in those conversations. Everyone would just be like, do you know Lewis Howes? Do you know Lewis Howes? Like,
Lewis is a cool guy. Like,
yeah. Man, he's with this person, like, it was a great interview. Man, that's Lewis Howes guy.
Yeah.
You just become associated with that crowd.
Yeah.
Mainstream, celebrity, credible, whatever it is.
Yeah.
If you interview all world-class athletes, you become known as world-class.
Yes.
And then I said, I need to, okay, the podcast was a great foundation. That's not enough. Like podcasting didn't have a big enough name still, 6 years ago, 5 years ago, not even until really a year ago.
Yeah.
So I said, what can I do? I need to write a book. Everyone who's credible, and this was my second book. The first book, I was like, I need to write a book.
It's a great book, by the way.
Thank you.
It's a great book.
I go, I need to write a book. And everyone was talking about self-publishing, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I go, it's got to be with a big traditional publisher.
Yes.
Because I need to go mainstream.
Yeah.
Because no internet marketer who writes a book gets a New York Times bestseller list.
Yeah.
They're not getting press.
Yeah.
I need mainstream press, mainstream publisher.
Yeah.
I need front of Barnes & Noble.
Yeah.
I need airports. I need what celebrities and credible TED speakers do.
Yeah.
That's what I need.
Yeah.
And I was committed to it. I went after the best agent in the world, Tim Ferriss's agent, Stephen Hanselman, who's incredible. And I said, and I was working on trying to get him as my agent for 5 years.
Yeah.
Until I became the person I needed to be for him to take me on. I had a vision, and I was just like, I'm
I
gonna write a
remember
book.
when we did the book tour. It was intense.
Yeah. I was like, I need to do everything that a celebrity would do, everything that a New York Times bestselling author would do. What do they do?
Yes.
They do big book tours.
Yes.
They have other celebrities with photos of their book posting
I
them.
remember after the book tour, I think I was listening to, I think you maybe you on a show or something like that. You're like, oh my, that's a long,
man.
yeah, it was a lot. There was a lot of work. Like, oh man, that
There was
was.
so much energy. But I was like, this is a moment in time that I have to make something special happen.
Yeah.
Can't write a book every year
Yeah.
and have a chance to hit the New York Times bestseller list
Yeah.
unless that's all you're doing as a writer.
Yeah.
But I was like, I need my first book to make a splash.
Yeah.
And there's a moment where I can call in every favor from every guest I've had on,
Yeah.
because I never asked them for anything.
Yeah.
There's where I can ask for every favor, email every journalist that I've ever talked to,
Yeah.
all my affiliate marketing contacts, everyone,
Yeah.
to promote one thing
Yeah.
for 1 week
Well, 1 week. Yeah.
and give myself a chance.
Yeah.
It was in the front of all the Barnes & Nobles
Yeah.
because I built a relationship with the
Yeah.
Barnes & Noble team.
Yeah.
I was in magazines, I was on TV, I was on everyone's email list, every podcast, all social media. I was omnipresent
Yes.
for a couple of weeks.
Yes.
And I remember when I got the phone call from my agent congratulating me that I hit number 3 in the New York Times bestseller list in the first week, I was just like, it's kind of like this, like, oh my gosh, we put all this energy. Even if we didn't hit it, I would have been disappointed if we didn't hit it, but I was like, you know what? We went all in and it worked. And I knew that just having New York Times bestseller next to my name as an author would be another bump in credibility.
Yeah.
Another bump towards mainstream.
Yes.
Another bump towards mass audience reach.
Yeah.
So I do things very intentionally that are very challenging
Yeah.
to do
Yeah.
in order to give myself that.
Yeah.
Doing the podcast 3 times a week for 6.5 years is challenging to do for people.
Most people would not do that. They
And to
would-
build relationships with people for years before they come on
Yeah.
is not fun.
Yeah.
To write a book and think of it as a New York Times bestseller, not as a moneymaker,
Yeah.
but as a mainstream book.
Yeah.
It's counterintuitive to my marketing roots,
Yeah,
right?
totally,
It's
I
like,
get
what
it.
can I do as a funnel to have a back end? And No. What can I do that's going to change humanity?
Yeah, and that's why I'm launching my new book. It's exactly the same.
Exactly.
Exactly the same.
Then I said, okay, what's the next phase? I need a talk show.
Yeah.
So last year I did the first talk show for Facebook Watch.
Yes.
They came out with a new platform. We launched their first ever talk show. And that was another bump. It was like getting credibility, getting press, getting all this attention. Then I was like, you know what else do I want to do that's challenging that people aren't willing to do because it takes time, money, and energy. This is what I felt growing up. If I lost any game, I felt like a loser. If I felt like a loser, I felt like no one was going to accept me and acknowledge me and appreciate me.
Right.
So I was so driven to win. And I was the worst loser. I was such a sore loser. I was like mean. I was bad to be around for days until the next game. And if I lost 2 in a row, it was like a nightmare to be around me, right? Like I feel bad for my parents to like have to deal with me all those years. And then I took that into the other areas of my life in a conversation. If I'm not right, then I'm wrong and I lost. And so I'd feel like mad and angry in arguments if I didn't win the argument. Then if I win the argument, I made the other person wrong and they lost. And I never understood this concept until 4 years ago of win-win. I never got that concept. 4 years ago, I got that in the same workshop where I was like, wow, my whole life I had to win and that meant everyone else had to lose with this athlete mentality. That puts me isolated on an island by myself because no one else can win. So I'm alone by myself and everyone else loses. As opposed to, why don't we all win together? How can we create every experience, every game, even if it's a winner and a loser, how can I still be a good sport about it? And how can I, even if I lost, how can I win by being a good sport and learning something? Yeah. It's finding those other experiences in our life that for so long, it was just like I had to win and it was just constantly killing me inside.
Yeah.
My third mentor told me to go on LinkedIn.
Okay, got it.
So my third mentor was a headmaster of the university that I went to called Principia College. And he was an Olympic qualifier in the marathon. He was just like a great spiritual business leader for me. He just always had the right moral. He just always knew like which direction you should go in. I could go to him for advice and he was kind of like a sensei where he would never give me the answer.
Yeah, ask you questions.
Ask me to answer myself. Yeah, you know what I mean?
That's a great teacher right there.
Great teacher.
That's a great teacher, yeah.
He would just kind of wait for me to like know the answer, you know, whatever it was.
Nice.
And I remember calling him and saying, I'm broke, I don't know what to do. I'm getting food out of the back of a Toastmasters. Like people have to beg people to take me to lunch. And he said, you should join LinkedIn. And at the time, I think there were 14 million people on LinkedIn.
Oh,
this was 2007.
Yes, early on.
And he's like, I've heard some people are getting jobs there. Why don't you check it out?
Yeah.
So I said, all right, I'm gonna
Maybe
whatever you
get a
tell me
job.
to do.
Yeah.
I'll do whatever you tell me to do. So I'm spending 6 hours a day on LinkedIn for the next year and a half during this time, just reaching out to people, trying to connect with local leaders in Columbus, Ohio, business leaders, successful people, just anyone from sports background to business to whatever it may be. Anywhere I could find like a tie where I went to school with, or they went to the same school, or they like football, anything at all. I was like, what do we have in common that I could reach out and connect to people? After about a year of building my relationships and profile, people just started coming to me and saying, hey, can you introduce me to this person? How do you know that person? I need help here. Can you connect me to a sales rep or a marketing rep? I just started to become the connector. Then people were like, can you show me how to use LinkedIn the way you're doing it?
Yes.
And I started showing my friends.
Yes.
And one guy gave me $100 after I showed him. He goes, you have no idea this is going to help my business so much. Yes. And I go, this is a thing? I can make money teaching what I already know really well?
Yes.
And that was a big spark for me. I was like, okay, I can make money doing this.
Yes.
What do you think about masks in terms of identity? Because for someone like you who spends a lot of time thinking about this, that not only did you go see a therapist, like it actually registered in your mind that would be a helpful thing. For a lot of people it doesn't. They actually don't know what their true self is. Like how do they begin to deconstruct and differentiate between, like when you talk about wearing the athlete mask for so long in your life, and that was real, right? Like you had a real passion for it. You still do. I mean, you're on the US national handball team, so it's like there's a point at which it's real and sort of core to who you are when you're being authentic, and then it spills over into a mask. How do you help people deconstruct that process to find where those marks are?
I think it's a lot of self-discovery. It's a lot of, for me, what worked was having open conversations and asking for feedback. And when you're wearing a mask, you don't want feedback. You want to know that you're right, that your way is the right way because it's been working for you. So asking someone, hey, how do I show up for you? You know, is there anything I do that just rubs you the wrong way? Or do you feel like it's hurting our relationship? Or do you feel like I'm disconnected in any way?
How often did you have conversations like that?
Growing up, not many. But 4 years ago after this fight, I started having them every day with everyone, everyone in my life. I think, you know, here's something you can start with. You can either have an open conversation with someone and ask them to rate you. You know, whatever works for you. Hey, will you write a list of the things that you feel like work really well for me, my strengths and my weaknesses? Or on a scale of 1 to 10, how open am I to feedback for you? Am I, 9 where I'm pretty open pretty much all the time? Or am I at a 2 where anytime you ever suggest anything, I push you away? Just start getting feedback from your closest friends. If you have an audience, you can ask your audience, from your family.
Did you ask your audience?
I didn't necessarily ask them to like grade me, or something like that, but I started having an open dialogue with my audience. I started sharing and revealing things. I started opening up about the things I was going through, things I was letting go from my past that had really affected me, and kind of having more like a confessional with with my audience of like, this is what's happened to me, this is where I'm going, and this is what I'm working on. I hope you'll stick around.
Right.
But I think asking people to write you a letter. If you can't have an open conversation, if you don't feel good about that, email someone and say, hey, I just want to get some feedback. I'm not going to get upset. I want you to speak openly to me, but could you write a list of like 5 things that I do really well, 5 things that you feel like are holding me back, and from our relationship, from my relationship with other people, and from my dreams. Start there. You're going to get so much, and say, I want you to be completely honest. Again, it's just one person's opinion, but it's their perception, and perception is reality to that person. So I try to get as much feedback as possible from my closest friends, my family. I had a one-on-one conversation with every family member.
Wow.
I took ownership and apologized for everything that I'd ever done. And I revealed all the things that had happened to me that I was terrified for them to know. I remember in between college, it took 2 years for me to get, I was doing like NFL Combine and tryouts. It didn't make the NFL, so I had to sit out a season. Then I did Arena League the next season. I remember during that time, I was like, I have no money, but I just need to train to get ready for the next season. And I was truck driving for 6 hours a day, and it was miserable.
Oh, yeah.
I was making $250 a week as a truck driver, driving from Columbus, Ohio to Cincinnati and back every single day.
Oh, that's...
Driving Napa Auto Parts. It was a Napa truck. It was the biggest truck before you had to be licensed to like drive a whatever the truck is.
A big rig.
Yeah, and it was like, it only went 55 miles an hour.
Oh my
Pedal
gosh.
to the metal the whole time, literally
So
down,
awful.
Seeing cornfields the whole time flat, and watching everyone pass me. It was so loud, it was uncomfortable. I was like, this sucks. It's not what I want to be doing. But it was a 6-hour window where I could work out in the morning, and then afterwards, it was like the only type of job. It was the only type of job that I could get right now, and then I was a bouncer on the weekends, and just doing odd jobs here and there. And I remember I was like, this is not what I want to do, but I'm doing something else I love and pursuing that, so I'm willing to do this now until I can make enough money doing the other thing. So I think there's a transition phase for a lot of people. It might be 6 months, it might be a couple of years where they got to work on stuff that they don't like. I was like mowing lawns at a golf course in high school. I was like, I hate waking up at 5 a.m. and doing this. But it also taught me a lot of lessons. It taught me how to do something that I hated and find joy in it. And I think when you can find the joy in mopping the floors or cleaning the toilets, mowing, whatever it is, the things you don't want to do, then when you find the thing you want to do, you're going to attract so much more joy, love, and abundance because you learned how to find joy in any activity.
You mentioned this earlier, you have a lot of masks. So let's talk about some of these various masks that men wear. One of the first ones you talk about is the Stoic Mask.
Stoic Mask, the man that has to have it all together, that never shows emotion, that's strong, but doesn't open up, who's just got a look on his face constantly, and you never know what he's thinking. But he's always strong, always reliable, but doesn't really show emotion. That's a heart attack waiting to happen. For a guy that can't express himself, the guy that can't open up, the guy that can't feel, because he has to be so tough that he can't feel, or so strong in that moment emotionally that he can't feel, that is going to build a lot of disease, and it's not going to allow you to sleep. Being the sleep expert, it's hard to sleep when you got that much emotion bottled up and you're just like this all day long. Just like, I got to keep it together. I got to keep it together. How are you going to sleep if you haven't let things go? Your mind is going to be racing. You're not able to talk about things. You're not able to let things go. Your mind's going to be racing. And it's going to hurt you. It's going to compound. Like you said, I think you said there's no such thing as like a sleep bank. You can't like get it back, I don't think, right? And so it's a heart attack waiting to happen. And you get to feel. You're a human being. You know, when I was a kid, and I lived with Stoic Mask a lot. When I was a kid, I used to feel all the time. I used to cry more than girls. Like I used to feel. I used to like reach out for my mom. I used to be emotional, sad, you know, happy, and feel. And then I was told that wasn't cool a number of times in sports or whatever it was to do that. And so I started to wear that mask. And it affected me, you know. I'm not saying I need to be a crybaby every single day and cry and be vulnerable all the time and like constantly express myself. We get to be discerning as well and know when and how, but we got to have a process for these things. Otherwise, we're going to be causing so much disease within ourselves and other people. I've never been 100% honest in any relationship, like intimate relationship.
What do you mean? Like what?
Like
would you
I feel
leave
like
out? You don't have to tell me exactly.
No,
if
like
you
in the
don't want
last
to, but, like,
relationship, let's say, just example, like because a lot of the women I've been with have a level of insecurity that's, you know, I would say like below a 5 level of insecurity most of the time. I'm not saying all the time. A lot of them weren't comfortable with who I was in the world.
Oh yeah.
Like
sure.
if I was doing an interview with you, they would have an issue with it.
Oh sure.
Like, where is the interview? How long are you gonna be? Are you gonna have lunch afterwards? Like, you're gonna connect with this person? Just like a level of like, I don't have freedom. So I would just be like, yeah, I've got an interview today or whatever. I wouldn't say who.
Skip the details.
Yeah, or I'm having a coffee with someone. I just wouldn't even say I'm having coffee. You know, it's kind of like, because not that I would do anything or anything would happen. It's just, I didn't want to deal, because it happened so often in the beginning where I was like, this is not worth telling you the truth about everything.
Right.
When you
it
get
means
upset,
nothing, but you're gonna freak out.
You're upset, you're hurt, you're frustrated. It's just another level of like insecurity. So I didn't have the courage and confidence to tell the truth about those types of situations because I didn't want to deal with the stress.
You didn't feel free.
I didn't feel peace, free. I didn't feel I can be myself.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like she trusted me. Like, if you don't trust me, you wouldn't stress. If you trust me, you wouldn't stress out about this.
Right.
So this relationship, I remember in the first few weeks of us dating, she was like, I want you to promise me something, that you will always tell me the truth. And I remember sitting there, I was just kind of like smiled. I was like, I honestly don't think you can handle the truth. And she goes, I can handle it. She goes, I may not like certain things, but I can handle it. And I go, really? She goes, yes. I don't care what you do in your life.
I relate to that.
I don't care what you do.
Yep.
If you know, I know you love to salsa dance, go salsa dance. I know you love to do this. Like, I will trust you fully. I just want you to tell me the truth.
The lie is worse than the truth.
It's worse. It sucks and it
hurts
eats you
way more.
alive. It was never fun for me, but I felt, and then I would resent the relationship. I resent her because I wasn't telling the truth. I wanted to, it was a whole cycle. And so I remember I was like, wow. I had a moment where I paused. I was looking in their eyes and I was just like, okay, I will always tell you the truth, no matter what. Are you sure you want that? She said, yes. I go, okay, done. And it's been so freeing for me. Every moment I just say everything that's on my mind. Like radical honesty. At the 3-day mark, the trainer of this workshop said, okay. And at this time, you know, people were really opening up at this time. People were, you know, very vulnerable. People were crying. People were talking about the different stuff that have held them back their whole life. And having these great breakthroughs and like awareness moments of like, okay, I understand this is something that I've been holding back. And at the 3-day mark, he goes, we've addressed everything from your past, and now we're moving forward. We're going to move towards the life you want to live, the vision you have for yourself, your dreams, your goals, and we're going to move towards how to accomplish them. But you can't accomplish your biggest dreams and feel fulfilled until you've addressed everything from the past. So if there's anything you haven't addressed yet in these last few days, now's the time, or forever hold your peace type of moment, is what he said to this group of 50 of us. And I'm going in my mind, I'm thinking, so he gave us a few moments to think about. I'm going in my mind, I'm like, you know, I talked about my parents getting divorced and talked about my brother going to prison for 4 years and visiting a prison cell and what that was like. not having friends during that time. I talked about being bullied and picked on as a kid, getting picked last. I talked about feeling stupid my entire life because I couldn't read and write. I talked about all these things, being in the special needs classes. What about that time I was raped by a man? And I just remember like, how come I've never told anyone that I was raped by a man and sexually abused and molested? Why have I never told anyone? Wow. And I remember in that moment just being like, if I don't say something now, I'll probably never say it to anyone. So I stood up. I didn't even raise my hand. I just stood up and walked to the front of the room. And I think because of everything that happened in my life, I just felt like I guess I needed to do it then. You know, people were, you know, the fights I was getting to, the relationship that I couldn't get out of, I was just like, I got to do this for myself and talk about it. So I get up in the front of the room, and for the first time, I walked through the entire story of when I was 5 and I was raped by the babysitter's son. And I reenacted the whole thing. And I couldn't look anyone in the eyes. I looked down at the carpet the entire time because I was so shameful, so guilty, so embarrassed. So I looked down at the carpet, walked through the entire thing, and I wasn't crying. I wasn't like shaking or anything. I just felt like I needed to get through it. And as I completed the story, I sat down and just erupted with the most tears I've ever had in my life. I just bawled. I was afraid. I was scared. I was just letting it out. And thankfully, there were 2 women on both sides of me who were just like holding, like squeezing me and like crying with me. So it kind of like made me feel a little bit better because I wasn't just isolated by myself. And I couldn't take it. I ran out of the room because I just couldn't stop crying. I ran out of the room. It was in a conference room in a hotel. I ran outside to get some fresh air. And there was a street, like a back street with a wall. And I put my head up against the wall with my arm against the wall like this and just kept crying. And one of the most beautiful things that ever happened to me, there were men from this group who walked out and hugged me and looked me in the eyes. And they said things like, "You're my hero." They were just like, "You're my hero. I've been judging you this entire time. I've assumed things about you." One guy was like, "Wow, I had no idea. And I've never shared this with anyone, but I was sexually abused. So thank you for giving me permission to tell you. And now I want to go tell my wife and my kids or my family." And other men had other things that happened to them. They weren't sexually abused, but they had other things. And they were like, "I've just felt like ashamed of these other things. But again, you've given me permission to open up. And I respect you. I trust you because you shared this." And one guy was like, "I will follow you anywhere." Like, now that I know you're a vulnerable man, like, he's like, you can have my, you can watch my kids, you can do it. He's like, "I will trust you with my life." And I was like, what? It was just like this, it was crazy because I was so emotional. Yeah. I was terrified, guilty, embarrassed, all these things. Yet all these people and women were coming up to me being like, you are like, they were like, I'm so turned on by you, like all these, everything. It was like all at once.
For some zany reason, the hardest thing for me to understand or get is self-awareness. Taking advice from Gary Vaynerchuk and yourself, but can't seem to break through to understand or become self-aware. What is your take on self-awareness and the first step you would take to become better self-aware?
I think being self-aware is realizing who you are, what your strengths are, what your maybe weaknesses are in moments, and just taking a moment to say, how am I showing up in the world? Am I getting certain results that I like in my personal relationships, in my business relationships, in my family relationships? Am I aware of the things that I am speaking into the world? So am I blabbering random things? Am I swearing all the time? Am I speaking negativity into the world? Am I speaking from a place of scarcity, or am I a positive person? Am I thoughtful in what I'm eating? Am I eating junk food all the time? Or am I intentional with what I'm eating? Am I intentional with how I create my surrounding, my environment, my space? Am I intentional with the people I surround myself, the conversations we're having? So I think that's part of being self-aware, is just first off recognizing, how do I show up in the world? What are the actions I take? who am I, everything, and first recognize where you're at in that space. So that's the first step of being self-aware, is literally being aware of who you are and how you show up in the world. The second thing, put the AC on. The second thing is then seeing where you want to go. So seeing what your vision is and realizing, am I on track to achieving what I want? Or is my lack of awareness holding me back from achieving this vision? And do I feel the things I want to feel every single day? Or am I constantly in breakdown? Am I constantly suffering? Am I constantly experiencing pain or frustration or anger or resentment? If that's the case, then it's time to be more aware of all the actions you take, of all the thoughts you have, and of your surroundings. I was broke 8 years ago on my sister's couch. And I remember saying, like, I never want to feel broke again. I never want to feel like in scarcity, like I need other people to depend on. I was living on my sister's couch. She was paying for stuff. I was like, I never want this feeling again. So I put on the material mask and I started fixating on money, millions of dollars that I wanted to make. I started fixating on nice things I wanted to have. I was like, I'm going to fixate on this. I'm going to meet people who are rich. I'm going to learn from them, and I'm going to figure this out. And it worked. I made a lot of money. I was off my sister's couch. I have a nice place. I could afford anything I want, essentially. Got a lot of money in the bank. It worked. But I gained 50, 60 pounds. I had 0 relationships. And it was never enough. We talked about this last night. Like, it was never a moment where I was like, okay, I feel worthy now. Like, no, my worth was dependent on how much money I had in my bank account and talking about it with people. And I think that's when it becomes a slippery slope. I had to kind of like constantly tell people, this is how much I have, this is how much I'm making, and like talk about it to like prove like, oh, you're great. Like, you're a good guy. Like, I want to be around you now. And that was that was a challenge because it worked to wear this mask, but then I was attracting people in my life that weren't there for the right reasons. I wasn't feeling authentic. I wasn't feeling all these things. So I'm all for making the most money in the world you want to make and having nice things. But there's a way to kind of showcase these things that uplifts and inspires people and instead of showing off these things, if you know what I mean. So I think there's some people that show off certain things. Thank you. There's some people that show off their money to make them look good and make them look worthy. And there's other people that showcase their lifestyle, and it just happens to be a part of their life. I'm constantly thinking about, how do I build what I have currently? How do I maximize what I've created currently, my podcast, my courses, webinars, all these things that I'm doing. But I'm always constantly thinking about, where's the puck going? Where is the puck going to be, right? And where can I predict what's going to generate results in the future? What's going to get the maximum results for my vision of impacting more people? 100 million people I want to impact. So what's going to give me the maximum results? That's going to give me the least resistance, because more and more people are doing podcasts, more and more people are doing webinars, more and more people are trying to do these courses. And a lot of people are saying the market is being saturated now because of this. So how do you stay ahead? How do you be first or the best or the most different in these different industries and things like that? And so I'm constantly thinking about what's going to be big in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, and how can I get ahead of 99% of people to get to that place so that I'm first, or I've learned enough from the process to be able to be there. And I'm constantly investing money and time into researching what that's going to be. And that research might be just going to events where smart people are at who are doing different things and asking them the questions. That research and investment might be trying things. I tried to launch a digital magazine because I felt like online publishing magazines was going to be bigger than print magazines. And while print magazines are dying and some people are doing digital magazines well, I spent $100 grand trying to launch a magazine that I never launched. But for me, it was like, at least I'm testing and I'm trying things and I'm setting myself up to win for the things that are potentially going to be big. But the podcast I launched before people started launching podcasts. because I saw this is where it was going. Smartphones were making it easier and easier for people to consume audio, whereas before it was a challenge. And I never listened to podcasts before. But now with the smartphones, everyone has a podcast. Now I think there's 500,000 podcasts now. So I am constantly thinking, how can I maximize what we have today for my business, health, everything, but also what is next? Because there's always things that are disrupting industries. Every industry has disruption. You think about Uber. The next generation is not going to be driving cars. They may not even get their driver's license because they don't want to drive. There are different technologies, different apps, different things that are happening in the world right now that is disrupting industries. So what you think is going to be working in the long term may not work. So you've got to constantly be innovating, reinventing, reinvesting in new ideas, new technology, new platforms, new ways of creating an income, and specifically in business. For me, it's what are the things that I'm going to do to continue to attract potential customers, because the only way to build a business is through sales and generating revenue. So what am I going to do to continually connect and add value to an audience, stay relevant, and then offer something that's going to solve a challenge or problem for that audience?
Let's talk about the aggressive mask.
Mm-hmm.
I think you highlighted that a little bit with the basketball.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is the man that just doesn't know how to express himself in any other way. And so he uses aggression to assert his dominance. And he reacts with aggression because acting any other way isn't manly. Acting any other way is weak, is soft, is girly, whatever it may be. Other words that are not in this PG-rated podcast. And again, I don't know many things good that come from anger. Like, even fighting anger with anger back. Like, I don't know many things that are good. And so, is it Martin Luther King who said something? Did you give me this quote about Martin Luther King?
I don't know.
He said something like, "I'll never get angry because of a man's efforts." I'm messing up the quote, but I'll never get angry because of the man's efforts because I will never give him power over me.
Yeah.
Getting angry over someone else's actions gives them power over you. You're saying that you have control, I'm going to react to your control. As opposed to, I'm going to be at peace, and I'm going to have control over my reactions. And that's some power right there.
Yeah.
When you don't respond with anger, that is the ultimate power, even when the worst things happen. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be frustrated, you shouldn't be angry from time to time and things like that. I just think, again, we get to be aware. If our default is anger when someone cuts us off and we start freaking out, if our default is passive-aggressive anger when our girlfriend or wife does something we don't like, when our kids do something, we're going to constantly snap at them and get angry and like get the whip out or whatever it is. It's like, how does that serve humanity? How does that teach the people around us what a man is supposed to be? Always angry? Is that what a man is? Is that healthy to teach that? So we get to look within ourselves. Again, I was telling you, I almost got so angry the other day because I missed my flight.
Yeah.
And the TSA people took forever to get through. And I was like, come on, guys, get me through here. I'm going to miss the flight. The door shut like as I'm coming around the corner of the gate. And I wanted to freak out on like the whole airport. I wanted to scream. I wanted to kick over the trash cans. I wanted to punch the walls. I wanted to like yell at the customer support person. And I was like feeling this rage boil up inside of me. I was just like, breathe. I was just like, breathe. Don't make a scene. Because that would be my natural default.
Yeah.
It's to be like, yes, this is what's okay. I'm allowed to do this. But that doesn't serve the situation. It doesn't help me. It makes me look like an idiot. And it causes chaos that then I have to deal with at a later time and apologize and all these things. So it's like in those moments of anger, breathe. Breathe. Like continue to breathe until you're not angry. It may take you an hour. You know what I mean? For some of us, it took me like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Standing there with this customer service person, I was like, I'm not going to speak until I'm able to be in control of my emotions.
This kid who just didn't feel accepted, you wondered why you even were alive, you had no confidence. And then on the other side of us, you turned into this very confident, goal-oriented, I want to go to the Olympics, you know, football player. And it's like, take me back to that. Like, how did that kid who didn't believe in himself and didn't even know why he was alive, how did he become confident?
There were many days where I would get in trouble at school and be in the principal's office, and I would just tell the principal, I wish I were dead, like over and over again. And I think back then they didn't know how to handle someone who said those things. I think there's probably a protocol now when a kid says like, I wish I were dead.
Right to the shrink.
Right, something, right? But there's just like, okay, get back out there type of thing. And
We're still paddling back in those days, probably.
exactly.
Pretty close.
Pretty close. For some reason, when I was sexually abused when I was 5. My brother went to prison for 4 years when I was 8. And my parents were constantly fighting and screaming and passive aggressive. There wasn't a lot of love in the household. My older sisters attempted suicide. So it's just like, it felt like numbing small trauma every day and then like big trauma every like couple of years, right? Like something happened was like, boom, here's a big trauma. And then just numbing, passive aggressive, not being seen, heard, like cared for. That was the story I would tell myself. Like numbing little traumas, big trauma. Numbing little trauma, big trauma. And for whatever reason, I kept thinking like, why am I here? There's gotta be a reason. Because otherwise, I might as well just end it. That's what I thought as a child, right?
Jeez.
And I just kept saying to myself, and I grew up in a small town in Ohio, and I kept saying to myself, like, I was here to do something. I don't know what it is, but I just need to get through this. I just need to get through this. I need to figure out what it is. There was something inside of me that just kept saying, like, you're here for something greater. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it's source, God, like my own craziness.
The veil between intuition and, you know, the intuition in you seems thin compared to some.
Yeah.
Right? To be able to be in that position, yet feel I'm here for something. That veil's thinner.
Yeah.
Which is great.
And it took a long time because I really didn't feel like I had many friends. It wasn't until I found sports. It was just like, I got picked last on a dodgeball team one time in school in 3rd grade, and I was just like, never again am I.
How? You're like 6 foot.
Exactly.
I mean, you were probably 5'10" then.
I was tall. Yeah, I was like 6 foot then, and I was a pretty decent athlete. I was like, I remember this. I don't know if you know this story, but they took us out in recess and had the class do a dodgeball, right? And we're gonna split the class in 2, and the teacher picked like 2 guys to pick the kids, like 2 captains. And they're picking one by one the boys in the class. Right? So they picked all the guys first, and I'm thinking, I'm gonna be one of the first people picked in my mind, because I was a pretty good athlete at this time. All the boys get picked, and then they start picking the girls.
Oh my God.
And I'm standing there, I'm like, what the hell's going on? Like, I'm a good athlete, right? And so they stick all the guys, and then they pick one by one all the girls. Probably like 10, 11.
Okay.
Yeah, 10, 11 maybe.
Oh my gosh.
9, 10, 11, somewhere around there.
Maybe it's because girls mature quicker. I don't know.
I don't know. I was the tallest kid in class. I was like,
Okay.
I thought I was a good athlete, whatever. Then they pick all the girls one by one, and then there's me, the last one. And they didn't even pick me. I was just by default on that next person's team. And for whatever reason, then something snapped inside of me. I was like, mother effers, like.
Yeah.
First off, I just felt like taken advantage of. I felt abused. My whole life was like this feeling of abuse and being taken advantage of because I was sexually abused. That's kind of the pattern that I've found that I have to really like be mindful of. Like, okay. If I feel like someone's taking advantage of me, it's okay. Like, I don't have to react like they're sexually abusing me or something.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's the same scenario.
It's okay. But that's kind of the story and the pattern that I've been in. And so something snapped, and I was just like, I'm going to destroy everyone in this dodgeball. And I was just like catching everything and throwing it in kids' faces. I was just like, whoa, you know, I was like, I'm going to dominate.
This is an SNL skit.
Exactly.
Right?
And I was just like, never again will anyone choose me last. And kind of like you, where it's like I had this goal in my mind, and I was just like, after class or whatever was done, 3 o'clock every day, I was at the gym till 10 o'clock every night, playing basketball, playing soccer, playing football, working out, whatever I could do, I was playing a sport until I had to go home. Because it was this deep, dark like desire to be something more than picked last. And I was like, I'm gonna prove every kid wrong who's ever made fun of me, who's ever bullied me, picked on me, abused me. I was like, everyone's gonna be wrong. And that was the driving force to me, achieving everything I did in athletics, until I hit 30, I realized like my whole life I've been doing things to prove everyone wrong. And I think it's the second most powerful fuel in the world. The most powerful is lifting others up and being of service and coming from a place of inspiration rather than needing to look good, be right. Be the best.
If you want another amazing Lewis Howes video, check it out right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
That is going to build a lot of disease, and it's not going to allow you to sleep.
I felt like I was being fake. Emotion is not something you have, it is something you generate.